Dementors are vicious creatures. They will not distinguish between the one they hunt and the one who gets in their way. It is not in the nature of a Dementor to be forgiving.
Dementors are one of the most original creatures featured in the Harry Potter books. While most creatures in the series were taken from ancient folklore, Dementors are original creations from Rowling. Rowling actually created them to represent her real-life depression, something that she really struggled with while writing the series. In this video, I'm going to go over everything you need to know about Dementors, from their origins, their powers and capabilities, what happened to them at the end of the series, as well as a few of my own insights and theories into things unknown. So let's get started. Let's start with what they are and what they're capable of. Dementors have human-like bodies, are 10 feet tall, and are covered in a dark hooded cloak. The creatures suck all light and happiness from the air, and make anyone present extremely cold and depressed.
Everything went cold, as though all the happiness had gone from the world.
They are genderless and don't mate, but they do reproduce. They grow like fungus where there is decay, basically cloning themselves. In order to survive, they feed on positive emotions from human beings, leaving their victims with nothing but darkness. When they do this, they force their victims to relive their worst memories and bring forward their darkest and most triggering thoughts. Their victims often become extremely depressed, and many are driven into insanity. The more Dementors there are, the worse these effects get. They're only able to feed and sense on human emotions, meaning that they can't do that with animals. They travel by gliding a few feet above the ground, which makes sneaking up on their victims very easy, as they are silent as they do this. The only people that are able to see these creatures are wizards. Muggles and even squibs are unable to see them. However, they can still sense their presence, as well as be attacked by them, just like wizards and witches. Under their hood, Dementors have rotting gray skin, empty eye sockets, and a gaping hole where their mouth should be. Because they have no eyes, the creatures are blind. However, they can see by sensing people's fears, sadness, or any other dark emotions. They use the hole in their face to suck the soul out of its victims. This is called the Dementor's kiss. When they do this, it leaves the victim as an empty shell, alive but completely and irreversibly gone. The conversation that Lupin and Harry had really explains how dark and serious this process is. What? They kill? Oh no, much worse than that. You can exist without your soul, but you'll have no sense of self anymore. No memory. No anything. There's no chance at all of recovery. You'll just exist, an empty shell, and your soul is gone forever. Lost. As of the events of Prisoner of Azkaban, no one knew what the face of a Dementor looked like. This was because anyone that had seen them take their hood down had gotten the Dementor's kiss, meaning that they couldn't tell others what they looked like, as they were now pretty much gone, just an empty shell, unable to share what they had seen. While we had never actually seen or heard Dementors speak during the series, they are able to. This fact is based on one line said by Mr. Weasley. The guards told Fudge that Black's been talking in his sleep for a while now. Always the same words. He's at Hogwarts. This means that they were able to tell Fudge the exact words he said, meaning that they can speak to humans. The creatures posed a huge threat to anyone that they went up against. They were very strong and impossible to kill. The only thing that's able to stop them from attacking you is the Patronus Charm, which is very difficult to produce. The charm is powered by happy memories of the person casting it.
Not just any memory, a very happy memory, a very powerful memory.
If the person producing it is experienced, they will create a Patronus Charm that takes the shape of an animal, which is the user's silvery white guardian or protector. The charm blocks the effects of the Dementor from the person who cast the spell, and normally it makes the Dementors flee. The majority of wizards are unable to produce this, however, and to do so is normally considered a mark of superior magical ability. Well, that is the only thing that can help you during an actual Dementor attack. There is one thing that will help you after: chocolate. It is the perfect antidote for anyone that has been overcome by the presence of Dementors.
Eat. You'll feel better.
This is only a short-term remedy, however, and excessive chocolate consumption cannot benefit someone too far gone because of a Dementor. Now let's go over their origin and history. The first place that they were discovered was on an island somewhere in the North Sea during the 15th century. They were in a fortress that would later be known as Azkaban Prison. Dementors infested the entire fortress, and they shared it with one other person, a wizard named Excrezdis. He was crazy and a very skilled dark wizard. It's not known exactly how the Dementors were created, but I think it's very possible that Excrezdis was the one that created them. This theory makes sense, seeing as he's a very powerful wizard who was very knowledgeable about dark magic, meaning that he could conjure something like this during his many years alone on the island. Also, the fact that the creatures don't affect him the way that they affect others leads me to believe that he was their creator, which is also why they don't go after him or give him the Dementor's kiss. Now that was my theory, so now I'm going to go back to the facts. Excretus would lure sailors to the tiny island the fortress was on, and use the Dementors to go after them, a sport that he very much enjoyed. After he died, the protection charms that he had put around the island disappeared, and the Ministry discovered the fortress, along with the Dementors. They sent Ministry workers to investigate, but when they got there, they were heavily affected by the Dementors, and refused to talk about what they had seen. The very walls of the fortress gave off misery and pain. Because of this, many people thought that it was an evil place that should be destroyed. Others argued not to do this because they were scared of what the Dementors would do when they took their home. They feared that they would take revenge, which would not go well for witches and wizards, as Dementors are impossible to kill. They eventually decided to leave the Dementors and the fortress alone. Many years later, Democles Roll became Minister for Magic, and he decided to use the fortress as a new prison and make the Dementors be the guards. The Dementors obeyed the Ministry because they were given constant souls to feed on, which is really all that they wanted. The prison thrived with no breakouts and no security breaches for many years. Azkaban, however, was a living hell. Most prisoners went insane, and those that died, the Dementors buried them in the huge graveyard that they had made on the island. Their perfect track record was broken 3 centuries later when Barty Crouch Jr. escaped when he switched places with his dying mother. The Dementors didn't notice the difference because one dying person went in and one dying person came out. It's also possible that they just didn't care about the switch as long as they had a soul to feed on. Many years later, they caught Barty Crouch Jr. and the Dementors performed the Dementor's kiss on him. The second person to get by the Dementors was Sirius Black. He turned into a dog, which was his animagus form, and walked past them with no problem. As I said earlier, Dementors aren't able to sense animals the way they are for humans, which is why it was so easy for Sirius to walk out. The Dementors went on a manhunt to find Black. First, they boarded the train to Hogwarts, where Harry Potter was deeply affected by them. The Dementors went to Hogwarts, but Dumbledore refused to let them on the grounds. He did, however, allow them to be on the outside of the grounds. They spent most of their time searching in Hogsmeade, the town next to Hogwarts. This annoyed shop owners, including Madame Rosmerta, the owner of the 3 broomsticks.
Rosmerta, my dear, I hope business is good.
It'd be a lot better if the Ministry wasn't sending Dementors into my pub every other night.
One day, to the fury of Dumbledore, they came on the grounds and onto the Quidditch pitch. There they made Harry pass out and fall off of his broom.
The Dementors aren't supposed to come inside the grounds. Dumbledore was furious.
Later that year, a whole army of Dementors found Sirius along with Harry and Hermione by the edge of the lake. They were seconds away from giving Sirius the Dementor's kiss when an enormous Patronus formed, driving all of the Dementors away. They later found out that it was cast by Harry from the future.
Expecto Patronum!
The summer before Harry's 5th year at Hogwarts, Dementors sent by Dolores Umbridge went after him and Dudley. Because Dudley was a muggle, he couldn't see them, but he still felt their presence and was also greatly affected by them.
Look at him, Petunia. Our boy has gone yumpy.
Harry ended up saving both of them, using his Patronus to drive them off. A few months later, the Dementors joined Voldemort and rebelled against the Ministry. Voldemort offered the Dementors many more souls to feed on, and souls that were considerably less drained. They had drained most of the prisoners in Azkaban, so getting fresh souls was very intriguing for them. Once they joined Voldemort and stopped guarding the prison, there were 2 mass Death Eater breakouts. Once Voldemort took over the Ministry, he started using Dementors in the actual Ministry of Magic, specifically in the courtroom, where they were persecuting innocent Muggleborns. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione infiltrated the Ministry, they released the Dementors from the courtroom, and they went after them. Harry, Ron, and Hermione used their Patronuses to free both themselves and the innocent Muggleborns. Voldemort also had them in Hogsmeade, another place that the trio came into conflict with them. Harry had to use his Patronus to protect them, which blew their cover, but Aberforth Dumbledore saved them. When the Battle of Hogwarts started, they fought alongside Voldemort and his Death Eaters. During the battle, the trio faced the Dementors, and they were so caught up in the grief over Fred's death that they weren't able to summon the happiness that they needed to cast the Patronus Charm. Harry was so far gone that he welcomed the fate of the Dementor's kiss. Luckily, Seamus Finnegan, Luna Lovegood, and Ernie Macmillan saved them at the last second as they cast their own Patronus Charms to drive the Dementors away. When there was a ceasefire, the Dementors went into the Forbidden Forest with Voldemort and the the other Death Eaters. As Harry walked towards Voldemort, he faced them, but he was shielded by the presence of his fallen loved ones, including his parents, Sirius, and Lupin. After the Battle of Hogwarts and the end of the Second Wizarding War, Kingsley Shacklebolt took over as Minister for Magic and rid Azkaban of all Dementors and replaced them with Aurors. It's unknown what exactly happened to the Dementors after they were shunned and no longer the guards of Azkaban, but I do have a theory. In Deathly Hallows, we saw that Voldemort put the Dementors in the Ministry, and maybe they could stay there, perhaps in another part of the Ministry, maybe even the Department of Mysteries. We know that that's where they kept many dangerous and mysterious things, such as brains, prophecies, time turners, the veil, and so much more, so the Dementors would fit in very well. We also know that it's certainly big enough to house the creatures. It's possible that they're locked away there forever. That about does it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button to help grow the channel. You can follow me on social media, links are in the description, and look out for more great videos on the way.